for suffering from species alienation, which is incurable. Or is it uncurable? No, incurable. And it's incurable because my theory explains you will never cure yourselves of your HSD, which is why I suffer from species alienation. But when I first on Vancouver Island met my first psychiatrist, Dr. Crosbie Watler, who's now retired. Last time I saw his Facebook picture, glass of wine, sitting back. A lot of people that work with him didn't like him. Again, like, he doesn't just look like a supervillain, like he acts like a supervillain. And he doesn't understand that HSD, you know, if he ever paid attention to what that was, and I didn't know about it back then. His specific profession and his personality pathologies in particular would help spread this mental illness that affects majorities at a cultural level to, you know, biblical proportions, if you want to say that. You know, I remember telling him, you know, one of the ways I feel different is I feel like, you know, I have to do certain things to not waste my life. And then I was telling him about reading the Foundation series with Harry Seldon by Isaac Asimov, you know, multiple times. And then, of course, boom, grandiose personality disorder. If only he knew that I proved him wrong all this time, but also not succeeding, right? I mean, the data is there that what I talk about is really the measurable effects of the human condition to the biosphere, and of course to its own proto-societies. When I taught his kid, I don't know if you ever knew this, when I worked for a different driving school then, before I started mine, is I could tell, you know, how his father's psychiatrist's pathologies had created some in his kid, and how his kid would say same thing as what he looks like in the picture, retired, thinking if everybody had lived as great a life as him, the world would be a better place, when it's actually much the other way around, even more so for the profession he had and the attitude and personality pathologies that he had. He most certainly accelerated the Anthropocene, although again it was too late for his lifetime as well, but he definitely you know, added to the problem, not to the solution. And I could really measure this in his kid who's, my dad thinks he's right about everything. And I don't know what kind of abuse he would have psychologically on his wife, because I'm pretty sure there's some of that there with that kind of temperament. So I said, well, yeah, I think, you know, I have to work on solutions in a way that I don't meet people who kind of can have these conversations with me. So I feel alone and alienated. I don't know if I said alienated back then. Not a word I remember using too much back then. And of course, you know, he has to diagnose me with something or two, instead of just addressing, you know, what caused me to go through these depressions and what actually cured me of these multiple deep depressions that lasted more than a year in my life, at least 3 that I can remember, although it screws up your memory, is to actually understand how I was responding to the human condition. This is what is obvious to me. This is what a good person would do. This is how I have the right to devote myself to solutions, even though it will alienate me more and more. And thinking at that point that it would cause more depressions, but actually cured my depressions, because I became me. I became the Homo sapien that doesn't wear a mask, that lives a transparent life, that did all the hard work to be part of the solution. That, of course, I can't make a difference, right? I can't make a difference unless there's a miracle butterfly effect that my life will have on the future, which I'm not suffering from ego issues like he thinks I do, to actually believe that's possible. I know I will fail. But the only way we can be evaluated for living a good life is to be part of the solution or part of the problem. And at what levels based on what we're capable of. And it seems I'm capable of many, many things and still survive these hardships and these alienations and this shunning. So it's quite ironic because, you know, I've been talking a lot about what Raven Seldon has talked about, and I'm not the only one talking about it. And some people are not diagnosed with things because they have an office in a university somewhere, for example, but they're saying some of the same things I am, but they're not willing to walk the talk at the levels I am, and therefore there must be something wrong with them. So in a way, they play a part a tiny bit less in the problem, and therefore they're celebrated, But when you reach the levels of sentience and sapience that I have, well, this is what it is. I will continue to get a pension from my province and be blocked probably in various ways. I mean, I've documented some with Work BC. I've documented some with the Ministry of Education. And it's not that I've done anything inappropriate or bad. It's that when somebody is that advanced compared to the norms paradigms, and it's not like I didn't try to help you with your paradigms by just going one little schema at a time. And yeah, it's a lost cause, but it's a cause I have to do because I care, because I have sentience. And I'm creative about how I do it because I have sapience.